to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives by this point of pale light.
We shall prevail.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome to the Internet Space Program.
GM, everyone.
Jim Pablo, GM, everyone. How's it going? We're going to the moon, right?
Yeah, it's wild. First time since 1972 that we're going back. Yeah, I loved watching all the reactions online and all the activity.
Yeah, Twitter was a buzz. All the social media, accounts were popping off with moon activity, space activity. Just really cool to, see it come kind of back into the mainstream a little bit, so to speak. There were a lot of people that weren't. I saw a lot of reactions online too of people who were like, "What? We have a moon mission today? Why did I not hear about this?" It was kind of crazy that people just missed out on this major news story until it actually happens, right?
Yeah, I guess people were expecting to get pranked because it was April 1st.
Right.
And then it actually happened. So yeah, a lot of interesting discussion. I saw some like back and forth between like journalists and just about like the legality of a moon base. I like that the moon base topic is like starting to like get into the mainstream.
Yeah,
like it's challenging people's or I guess they're at least starting to debate it. It's
right.
A topic of conversation. So that's progress, at least in my view.
For sure. Yeah, a mission to the moon makes it all a lot more tangible. I mean, it's been it's recent history, but it's been a long time since humanity has ventured back to the moon. So it feels kind of like, something you study in the history books as opposed to something that's happening in the present time and coming up here, exponentially in the near future with monthly cadence lunar lander missions, etc., as Jared Isaacman's proposing. So yeah.
And now we have crazy things like prediction markets on whether or not they're going to fix the toilets.
Right. That's totally unexpected, I guess.
Yeah. We've got all these new and exciting ways of
interacting with space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super exciting. And yeah, so I guess we should do a little bit of just like updates, housekeeping. We've got a great conversation coming up with Frank and Andy. But before that, so campaign updates. We're at around just under $150,000 with our campaign with Frank. So that's pretty incredible. Puts us in striking distance of some of these suborbital seats, but there's still a long way to go. Or sorry, striking distance of some of the stratospheric balloons. Sorry, misspoke there. But there's still a ways to go. And some interesting news that came out publicly is that Virgin Galactic is selling seats and they're accepting deposits right now. So that's awesome. But they have a publicly quoted price of $750K per seat. So very interesting. But yeah, we're still deep in fundraising territory. We've got a little over 3 weeks to go. So we need to keep pushing. We always have to say this, but it's not just Frank going. We're going for 2 seats. I believe we're at 22 people that are currently competing for the other seat. So if you're a citizen and you'd like to be in the competition for that, go to MoonDAO.com. Under the Launchpad section, you'll see you can support Frank's flight, but then you can also compete for that extra seat. So put your hat in the ring. You could back someone else. You could back any citizen with your contribution. So you contribute, you get some overview tokens, and you can back any of the citizens. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people voting. It's not, not everyone who is contributing is competing themselves. So some people have gotten, a fair number of backers, but it's all still in reach if you want to jump into the competition to fly alongside Frank. Yeah, hopefully we can get some more contributions during the live stream and today, just to keep the momentum going. What are we at? 25 days? Yeah, you said a little over 3 weeks here.
Yep.
So we're coming into the home stretch, and hopefully we can finish out strong for Frank. I mean, obviously there was a lot of attention on Artemis, and hopefully people are coming back down to Earth and getting more excited about space, and we can build on that a little bit. To actually not just donate out into the void, but to join a space mission, to participate in a space mission, to participate in some of the governance decisions around the mission. So it's a new way of interacting with space and participating in space.
Right. Yeah. It's not a spectator sport. You can get involved and if you have contributed and you haven't backed any citizen yet, check it out. Go to the website, and with the tokens that you received, you can back any citizen. So, yeah. And then in other news, we have another call for proposals for projects. So the max budget for proposals for projects is $4.7 thousand, so $4,700. And this time around, we're going to be doing payments in stable coins, not in Ethereum. So you can list your budget in US dollars. Last time we received about 20 projects, and then out of those 20, I believe we funded in the end 7 of those projects. We'll see how many proposals we get this time around. The date, I think for when it's I don't want to say the wrong date, Ryan.
Well, we've been so focused on the Frank fundraise, but we are targeting April 9th for the submission deadline for projects, and then actual presentations to the community on the 16th. So if you are looking to submit a project, please do have it, submitted and ready on April 9th. You can post it to ideation right now or over the weekend and just get some feedback from the community. But yeah, we'd love to see some more really cool ideas for Q2 come through the pipeline. So yeah, if you submitted last quarter and weren't approved, you can revise and submit again, or if you have a totally new idea, you can submit that. But it's open to anyone. You don't have to be a citizen necessarily to submit a project proposal. But yeah, you can reach out to Pablo or myself as well if you have questions or thoughts on whether your idea would be a good fit. But yeah, seed funding for your space project. So let's make it happen.
Yeah. And I guess again, so you can post it in Discord in the ideation channel to get feedback on your idea, but to officially submit it, you have to go to the website and then submit it through the form that we have on the website for proposing new projects. So, important, I guess, announcement, really. Like, I don't want to bury the lead on this one. So April 9th is the deadline for submitting your projects, and the max budget is $4,700 per project. So you can submit a project up to that amount, but again, the likelihood that your project gets approved goes up the lower budget it is. We'll look at the cost benefit of each of the projects, and the community will rank them against each other. And the ones that receive the highest rankings will be the ones that are funded. So just want to make sure that that's repeated so that people wrap their heads around it. One more time, April 9th, 4.7K maximum budget. Go on the website, and fill out the form on the website if you want your project to get funded. So, yep.
Cool. Yeah, we can probably circle back after the town hall and dive into a little more details as well. But yeah, everyone who's tuned in here now live, do be sure to give us a like, give it a share. We've got an awesome conversation here. We're going to turn it over to Frank and Andy Sadhwani to talk about space travel and the overview effect and the Artemis mission. Frank was on the ground in Florida yesterday, so really excited to hear about Frank's experience as well. So yeah, if you have questions throughout the conversation too, you can feel free to pop them into the live stream chat, and we might be able to get to those towards the end of the conversation. But
yeah, excited to hear Frank's thoughts about being there on I guess, with Kristen Fisher up at the what's it called, the Space Cafe,
the Space Bar.
Space Bar.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited to hear from Frank.
Cool.
And excited to hear from Andy as well, who recently became a citizen. So we have more people that have been to space that are citizens, which is awesome.
Our newest citizen.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, awesome.
All right, let's bring Andy and Frank up. And hey guys.
Hello. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Ryan and Pablo. Andy and I are excited to be here. I'm very excited to talk to you and to everybody because I did have the honor and the pleasure of watching Artemis II lift off yesterday. I'll get into some more detail about that later on in the talk, but I will just say briefly, I've been around long enough to remember Apollo and how exciting it was that we were going to the moon. We were going to the moon frequently, not just once, but it was a program. And, it's hard to explain what it was like to have that just be part of your reality. But I felt it yesterday too. Wow, it's going to be part of our reality for a while now. And what we didn't have back in the 60s was a follow-on like we have now, which is, hey, let's build a moon base and let's keep this thing going. Let's sustain it. So I'll come back to that. But the way that we're going to do this is that I'm going to interview Andy, and then he's going to interview me. And as many of you know, that's what I do. I interview astronauts. And actually, I recently interviewed Andy for the 5th edition of the Overview Effect. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then he's going to turn the tables on me. And that's going to be fun, too. So, Andy, hey, congratulations. You're a citizen. And that's terrific.
Thank you, Frank. Ryan, Pablo, thanks so much for inviting me on the show, and for all the viewers, thanks for tuning in, whether it's live or afterwards. And Frank, always good to chat with you.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
So I want to say, first of all, Andy is a unique person in many ways, but one of the ways is he's a rocket scientist and an astronaut. And we talk a lot about rocket science, but Andy, I think you're the only rocket scientist I know. And you also flew on Virgin Galactic. And I was going through my interview with you the other day, and you said that actually working on Starship, which you do, that flying on Virgin Galactic, which is a very different spacecraft, that actually helped you in thinking about how to build what is also going to be a very powerful rocket. So how does that work? How did your flight on Virgin make it even more interesting or insightful to work on Starship?
Sure. So a quick backstory is when I was in graduate school, I watched Spaceship One become the first private company to reach space and back, and then win the Ansari X Prize. And ever since that point, that motivated me to, fly to space. So I had been saving up along, and then an opportunity came to fly with Virgin Galactic on Spaceship Two. So I'm super grateful to the Virgin Galactic team and all the hard workers. And I just chatted with some of their staff yesterday on the new Delta vehicle that they're building. So I flew on Virgin Galactic on Spaceship Two in June of 2024, and it was a suborbital flight. So that means that we were dropped from a mothership, and then we accelerated up into a parabola up to a little over 50 miles. I think it was 54.5 miles. And then we arced over and then came back down. So we had about 3.5 minutes of weightlessness. And the time was about 15 minutes from drop to landing. There were a number of sensations that I'd experienced, both physically and mentally. During the drop, there are some negative G's that are experienced as the spacecraft is pointed down away from the mothership, so it can, move away before the motor is turned on. And then the motor turns on very briefly afterwards, and then we feel about 3 G's of acceleration. The spacecraft is going horizontal and then starts arcing upwards to go into what's called the gamma turn. And as it's going into the gamma turn, the G's that are going into the chest transition, well, I should say, they, in addition to the G's going through the chest, there's also G's going through your brain. So this, if this is GX and this is GZ, or gravitation in the Z direction, starts increasing as you go on this turn because of the centripetal effect. So the blood starts getting drawn from your brain, and you feel the acceleration. So it's about another 3 G's. So the peak G's that we felt was about 4.3 G's. And then now we're going straight up towards space. And then now we're back to just GX, so just feeling G's in our chest. And then when the motor turns off, there's weightlessness. There's extended weightless time, and I'm happy to chat about that in a bit. But going back to your question, whenever it came time for landing, we experienced buffeting loads, and then there's like the sound of the outside. In Ron Rossano's video, just like last week, he had this amazing compilation that he put together, and you can hear during entry, it sounds like wind that's on the outside. So that's the atmosphere slowing the vehicle down, and there are loads associated with that. And there's also acceleration associated with that. And then we eventually land. So the way that actually tied in with my work was kind of intriguing. Initially, I went to space because I had wanted to experience what it was going to feel like, and just see what Earth looks like. But I got much more by experiencing the high G loading, which was very manageable, but you definitely feel it. By experiencing the vibrations from thrust, by experiencing weightlessness for an extended duration. And looking outside and saying, okay, there's the sun. It's very bright, and it heats up the Earth through radiation. So if I am a spaceship, then what would I feel during a long coast mission, especially onto the moon as we head for greater and bigger projects on HLS. And then eventually, when we come back down, there's entry. So there's buffeting loading, there's shaking, there's some thermal loading. What I specifically do at SpaceX is I work on the Raptor engine, and we're always hiring. So like if people are interested in coming on board, check us out on LinkedIn or X. And so I become the engine. So as the engine, I'm experiencing this like G loading. How do I maintain a connection to the vehicle and stay strong? As I feel this buffeting and acceleration, which is dynamics, that allows me to think of ways of analyzing the dynamics and buffet loading on the vehicle, and combining that with other stresses and strains that we experience in our parts. And then when it comes to thermal loading, like Raptor, it's on this engine, like you go from very, very cold temperatures, below 100 Kelvin, all the way to over 1,000 Kelvin in the engine, hot enough to melt metal with the temperatures that we go to. So, how do we manage this? And then doing thought experiments is a very important way of doing that. And the space flight that I took helped me with those thought experiments, so I could create better spacecraft and rocket engines.
That's really so fascinating, because, you would think that the Virgin flight, suborbital and so on, is so different from a Starship flight. But I guess when you're an engineer, everything looks like a rocket, feels like a rocket. And, you know, so I'm curious too. I've heard other people who've flown say that they can't watch a launch without kind of going back to their own flight. I don't know. I'm assuming you watched Artemis. Did it take you back? Did it give you a sense of, I don't know, excitement that might be different from those of us who've never flown?
I was very excited. Many people in the office were gathered around the projection screen so we could watch this historical moment, and watch these four brave and highly experienced souls going over to the moon, like the best and brightest. So we're very excited for the future. Kind of touching upon something that you had mentioned about my flight, that there are different ways of getting to space. I took a suborbital mission. SpaceX does orbital missions. So there will be like differences in profiles. However, that feeling of the thrust of the engine, and then the anticipation of what am I going to see, and it's pretty amazing. So I had seen some SpaceX launches. I saw some Virgin Galactic launches before, and then a Blue Origin launch as well. And watching all of these launches, including Artemis, there's this. Okay, it's like watching a movie real time, and you kind of put yourself in the place of the vehicle, like the excitement of it going up, and the massive amount of energy and physics that are going on, and all the millions of components. And then there's part of us that put ourselves in the place of the astronauts. Like, what are they feeling? What are they experiencing? What are they thinking? And how about for the engineers and the other folks working on the program? Like, what are they experiencing as they watch this vehicle go up, because they've worked so hard on it?
Yeah. Let's go back to your flight just for a minute, because everybody knows, I think by now, what I'm interested in is the psychological impact of seeing the Earth and being weightless. And could you comment on that just a little bit, and what it is like? It's very brief, and I've had to really convince people that it's worth it, that something does happen even in a few minutes when you have this experience. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That's a question I get often as well. It's like, oh, it's only 3.5 minutes. Is that enough time? It was more than enough time. Yeah. When I unbuckled my seatbelt and I looked out the window, the first words that came out of my mouth, I'm not the most religious person in the world, so that was a things that came out. It was so breathtaking. When you see the Earth and the contrast of the blueness and the other colors on the planet with respect to the absolute blackness of space, the absence of light, photons. There's background radiation, but like in terms of like visual, light that we would detect with our eyes, it's the emotions that's very overwhelming. And then, while you're experiencing this and you can maneuver yourself about the window or about the spacecraft, you have extended 0G time, microgravity time to experience this. And the 3.5 minutes, I just focused on looking out the window, and the amount of information I was getting in was quite a lot. After a while, it kind of asymptoted, because it's like, okay, I'm ready for like the next sensation. But those 3.5 minutes, it felt like an eternity. It felt like a really long time.
Yeah. I guess people are just going to have to go on their own to understand this, because I know when I've talked to people about Blue Origin, which is 11 minutes up and down, they can't believe it. And I understand that, but it is true that people who go on Blue have that feeling. Could you clarify something? Because people have asked me about Virgin. So you have 3.5 minutes of weightlessness and looking out the window. How long does the entire experience take? Because again, not everybody understands that there's the mothership and then there's the rocket ship, and that there is a time period of getting up there and then landing like a plane. How long does that take overall?
Sure. So we wake up very early in the morning, and then we board the spacecraft. There is a period of time where checkouts are performed, so I'm guessing that takes somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. And then when we take off, the mothership is carrying us under the wing or under the belly. We are gathering up altitude. So we go into this like rectangular pattern, and for every rectangular pattern that we pass, we're increasing in altitude. And then while we're doing that, the pilots are also checking out the health of the vehicle, making sure everything's ready to go. So I would say that the duration on the mothership was probably about 40 minutes as well. And that was also a strong part of the flight, because I'm looking out the window and we're really high up on this mothership. Like you can, I think, kind of start seeing the curvature of the Earth. Is looking back at my life, all the people that have influenced me, including my elementary school teachers through college teachers. Let's look back on life, and then all of a sudden there's T minus 5 and then 2 minutes and then 30 seconds, and then you get ready, and then you drop, and the boost time is probably about a minute. The weightless time is somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes. I'm just calling it 3.5 just to kind of average the numbers. And then there's the entry phase where we have to slow down, and then we glide back down, just like the space shuttle does. And the view is spectacular, both up there and also of Earth under the atmosphere as well.
Yeah, I think for people who don't live and breathe spaceflight like we do, it's really interesting for me to talk to them and attempt to explain, well, Virgin does it really differently from Blue, and the suborbital flight is very different from an orbital flight. And I understand that. I mean, I've said it before. I'm interested in genetic engineering, but I couldn't hold a very long discussion about it because I don't know a lot about it. And I don't fault anyone for not knowing all these differences. And I think we talked about it just before we came on, that some people were startled to find that we were going to the moon yesterday. They didn't know about it. Well, they have other concerns that are more immediate, obviously, but we did go, and that's important. One last thing that I really think is worth talking to you about as a rocket scientist, I've also attempted to explain the difference between Artemis and the actual spacecraft and, let's say, Starship. They're very different, right? And I mean, a lot of people have said, well, is there anything reusable on the Artemis flight? And the answer is really no, which is very different from what we think the future is going to look like. So since we have you uniquely here for the moment, and you know more than I do about it, what is really the difference between the flight yesterday and the upcoming Artemis flights, and what we're likely to see in the future?
Sure. I think that the trajectory NASA is taking is that we need to get back to the moon. And there are multiple options. There's the initial Artemis 1 and 2 missions that got us up using the solid rocket boosters and I think RS-25s. And then in the future, we'd be looking at using Starship and potentially some other vehicles as well. We need to get up there and get learning. I think one of the great things that Jared Isaacman has done is really just, let's get some data, let's get some learning. And we learn by doing. It gets the program has more opportunities with reusable vehicles. So that is a strong motivation for something like Starship, where not only would it be able to launch eventually satellites to orbit, but also people. And the reusable nature is what dramatically brings the cost down, because if you imagine flying in a 747 across the Atlantic, and then you had to throw the vehicle away, that would be a very expensive ticket. But because we can reuse the aircraft over and over again, the majority of the cost may just be fuel. Yeah. And very similar with rockets.
So we're probably Artemis is probably going to be the last of its kind, where it is not reusable, and yet it does do the job. And yesterday was a great example. As I was watching, I was sort of thinking, oh, it's never going to launch on time. These particular rockets don't launch on time. The shuttle hardly ever did. I may be wrong about that, but that's how I recall, is that there was always something, and yet they eventually would launch, and it was great. Yeah, so we're moving into a different era, and I think you're right. I think Jared is saying, let's use what we have. Let's go to the moon. Let's get going, and then we'll evolve, and we'll do it differently as we go. So again, I just want to close this part of our discussion by saying I'm still excited from yesterday. I was excited back in the day when we watched the Saturn V, which was an amazing vehicle, incidentally. The Saturn V blasted off, and I don't think we even know how to build a Saturn V anymore. That was a long, long time ago, and most of the people who worked on it are no longer with us. But yeah, so we're going to do a little change here, and we're going to let the interviewee interview the interviewer. So.
Absolutely, Frank. And let me actually share. I'm going to share a quick slide.
Sure.
I have. Let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so can you all see the PowerPoint? Okay, here we go.
I'm not seeing it at the moment. For a minute, I saw it.
Can you all see the PowerPoint? Okay. Here we go.
It
looks like there's a little.
I'm not seeing it at.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll kind of review some lessons, or I'll just kind of read off the list. Looks like we're getting an echo. Sorry.
I think we had the video. Yeah, we had the video, the YouTube video being shared. I don't know if maybe you're sharing the full screen.
Yeah,
that was the issue. So we're.
Yeah. If you want to share the video, go right ahead, and then we can continue on with the rest of the discussion.
Okay, I can share the Virgin Galactic flight video here.
Great.
Thank you.
And if you have the PowerPoint, loaded up. It was just loading up the YouTube video in the background, so that was the echo we were getting.
Okay.
Cool. I'll cue the video up.
All our lives we're looking down on our phones. We're looking down at the streets where we're driving to, and we never look up.
I'm most excited about looking at the Earth, getting the overview effect, and it provides perspective.
It will allow us to understand some of the basic human physiology we were never able to understand before.
From the moment I arrived over here, I thought I'm already in space, floating.
Today's flight is an international research mission, as well as a private astronaut journey. You're here today for VSS Unity's last commercial flight. It is the largest crowd to join us for a launch since Unity 22.
Enjoy.
Now on to Galactic 7.
Are you guys ready?
Oh yeah.
It's time? Okay, we're gonna follow me out to the nose of the ship, all right?
Good luck, guys.
All the preparation I've done ever since I was little, it all adds up, and all of it has built up to this moment.
Release. Fire. Welcome to space.
My God, it's stunning.
Cabin, you're clear to strap.
coming in on a perfect glide slope, 500 feet above the field. Once again, Virgin Galactic returning new astronauts to planet Earth. Concluding VSS Unity's final space mission, paving the way for the next generation of commercial space flight.
That's so great.
Fantastic. Every time I watch the replay of Galactic 7, I always get goosebumps. I'm going to flash a couple of images on the screen real quick. All right. Or try. Okay. All right. So what I'll do instead is I'll just kind of like read off my list because it's I couldn't figure out the sharing thing. But some of the lessons learned I had were, in addition to discovering space, I found myself in the journey. Working towards a mission statement helps when obstacles are faced. I have a better sense of cosmic scale after seeing the Earth. I'm more calm and peaceful, and I don't sweat the small stuff as much. A greater bond with humanity and the planet. And the greatest joy was in the journey that leads up to the apogee, so the preparation. And then tips for your journey, Frank, and then also other people on the online are that any altitude is attainable with the right attitude. So whether you think you can or can't, you're right. And chance favors a prepared mind. So like when you have these opportunities, you really want to jump on them. Choosing a healthy lifestyle, surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be like. And then when you when you want to chat with other space explorers, and within 24 hours of your own space flight, journal what you saw, thought, and felt. And then after that time, like really kind of intermingle with the others so you can share in their experiences, and go to a place where you can see the Milky Way and keep dreaming and share your story with others. So those are some tips for people. And Frank, now I get to interview you.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the very first question I have for you is, what did you feel? What was it like watching Artemis go up in person yesterday?
Yeah. It was so moving. It was so moving. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it right now. It was the third space launch of its kind that I had seen. I also was present at Ron Rosano's flight. And every time I see something like that, I feel like, this is what we can do as human beings. We can fight. We can divide ourselves into tribes. We can be in conflict, or we can work together, and we can do great things. And it's very moving. I mean, it's a physical thing. It's an engineering thing, as you know, but it's also psychological and spiritual, really, that humans can accomplish these amazing missions. And I felt it yesterday as well. And as I said, it had echoes of the 60s where we were really excited about space in a big way. And in a way that was inspiring for the whole country. So that was one thing. The other thing that really gets to me emotionally is that I interviewed Reed Wiseman in a NASA studio. I met him, and we chatted, and portions of my interview are still on YouTube, and it was a terrific interview. I interviewed Christina Koch and two of her colleagues while she was on the International Space Station. And when you know people who are in that capsule risking their lives for this return on investment, or as I say, and I got this from somebody else, I can't remember who, but return on inspiration, which is priceless. There's just something about it that's remarkable. So I think I was deeply moved. And I didn't know how I would experience it. I didn't know if I'd be jumping up and down and saying, go, go, go. I think I did say, oh my God, a couple of times. But I just sat there and stared at that thing going up, and I was in awe. I was in awe the whole time. And it was brief. It's kind of like your experience at Apogee. I mean, once you light that candle, it doesn't stay around.
That's a wonderful description, Frank. I feel like I was there with you at the Cape, and also your unique, the uniqueness of you chatting with the astronauts before they went up and having that sort of personal connection. That's really, really special.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And hopefully, many more flights to come in a very frequent way. Could you, and this is a quick plug for your book, like the overview effect. I remember when I was interviewed for Virgin Galactic to talk about why I wanted to fly, I mentioned that I wanted to experience the overview effect. And I had met you for the first time at Ron Rossano's launch, and you're like, I'm Frank White. I was like, oh, I know you. And I just wanted to say that your book, the overview effect, like it's taken you decades to put together. The over 100 astronauts that you've interviewed, that you've put all these stories together and then distilled it down for the listener or the reader. And it's very poetic. Like I was actually listening, I have the Audible version, and I have like a bunch of bookmarks, and I was going through the different bookmarks. And it's so wonderfully put together because there's a lot of like deep thoughts and philosophical thoughts that you have in there. And it's really a work of art. One of the exciting things for me to see you go up is seeing more poets and artists and writers go up because of your way of writing and bringing it down to the public. So that maybe that's like a pitch for people to fund your mission, because we're funding how this is communicated.
That's right. And
so yeah.
And the interview I did with you, which I'm working on now, Andy, is going to be in the 5th edition of the Overview Effect, which is coming out, next year, we hope, or we plan. And the 4th edition did not have any interviews with commercial astronauts who had flown. I interviewed people who were preparing to go, including Sir Richard Branson. And I interviewed people who've flown since then. But in the 4th edition, I did not have anybody who had gone on commercial flights and were reporting back on that. So the 5th edition is going to be full of commercial astronaut interviews. I think people are going to find that really, really interesting, because we're going to have NASA astronauts, we're going to have commercial astronauts. And one thing that strikes me is how similar the descriptions of the overview effect experience are. There was a lot of skepticism about Virgin and Blue and what it would be like because of the brevity of the flight and so on. But no, it didn't work out like that. In my view, the overview effect is the overview effect, short, long, whatever. And that's really an interesting finding, which I think will be of interest to people who actually get into the 5th edition.
And that's a wonderful segue to my next question, which is, can you briefly tell us about your career and how the overview effect came about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. There's a lot of misunderstanding about how the term came about, and I'm always happy to correct it. And actually, I talked to GPT-5 and I talked to other AIs about it, and they've got it wrong too. I can't believe that. But yeah, so there's this idea that I had the notion of interviewing astronauts about their experiences, and then I decided that the name for that would be the overview effect. That's not how it happened. And Claude, when I talked to Claude about it, I explained that actually I had an experience on an airplane where I realized what it would be like to live permanently off-world. it was not about astronauts, it was about future space people. And I explained to Claude that I had the insight, and the term overview and overview effect came to me, and there were no space people, so I started interviewing astronauts as proxies. Claude said, "Oh, I'm so happy to hear that distinction. That is much more profound than simply interviewing astronauts and finding and creating a phrase." I said, "Yes, Claude, and I hope you'll remember this next time you talk to somebody." And Claude says, "Well, I don't have a memory of conversations like this." So anyway, but many people think that's how it happened. And it is a big difference. It really was an epiphany of my own. It was a mini overview effect because I was looking out the window at the ground, at the earth. And the words overview and overview effect came into my mind. And so it became a theory, interviewing people like you and interviewing people like Edgar Mitchell and Gene Cernan and all of the people I've talked to. That was either going to confirm or debunk the idea that there was something going on here. And I think that we've done enough interviews now. Other people have done interviews. Something's going on when you get off the planet and look back. But that's how it happened. And I mean, initially, I was committed to interviewing the entire astronaut corps that NASA had. And they thought that was hilarious, that I thought I could do that. And the astronauts could take time off to talk to me. But I did get from a NASA public affairs guy the insight that I should interview retired astronauts. And that's what really made it work.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks for correcting AI for us and also providing that background.
Yeah.
And then, so, this term was coined before most of the commercial space flights that we've had. Yeah. Looking back, I'm curious, what surprised you about how the concept evolved and was adopted by astronauts and the public?
Yeah, there's so many stories to tell about that. I mean, there are kind of three different things to say. First of all, we have to bear in mind that for 25 years, people were having the experience, they had no name for it. That's really important, that naming anything is important. And one of my colleagues, Stan Rosen, I work with him on the human space program. Stan was interviewing astronauts before I did. And I think he was seeing some of the same things I did. But he did not write a book and he did not coin a phrase. And Stan deserves a lot of attention for what he did. And I bet there are other people who deserve attention. And that's one reason I try to say I did not, quote, discover the overview effect in that sense. So first of all, there was a period of no naming. Then there was that period when I was interviewing professional astronauts and confirming the hypothesis. And then we come to the third period, which is people actually knowing about it and wanting to experience the overview effect. And that creates a bit of a conundrum, because one of the things that made it work for the professionals was they were surprised. They weren't planning anything. They were going for a completely different reason. And I'm sure we have all had experiences where we had something we were doing and we had an experience of serendipity. Something happened that was completely unlike the plan, but it changed our lives or affected our lives. And now we have this time when people like you and others are going with a term and with some idea of what it might be like. And the contradiction here is that Edgar Mitchell was the first person to tell me that being open to the experience is key. And that's hard to do when you're knowledgeable about it. You hear what other people have done, and it's almost that impossible situation where you say, I have to be open to the space flight. And yet that's what you have to do to get the most out of it. So yeah, it's been a very, very interesting experience. And for me, and one other thing I would say is I really did think I had a Einsteinian type of equation to explain the overview effect, which was that the impact was equal to the distance times the time plus openness. And that would mean that suborbital flights were unlikely to match orbital flights. And yet, I think they have. And so I've now added openness as a big part of it, much bigger part of it than I expected. Also, preparation for the flight and integration of the flight. Christina Starr and I are working on a training program for commercial astronauts. And we have really started focusing a lot of attention on how do you integrate it back into your everyday life. It's a never-ending and fascinating topic, as I think you can see.
There was a wonderful comment put in the chat on the Frank equation. I love seeing that. And an invitation for the viewers, whether you're live or you're watching afterwards, is if you've had any mini overview effect moments, such as being in an airplane like Frank was, or climbing a mountain, or virtual reality, or if you've traveled to space yourself. I love that. Thanks for putting that on there. A couple of more questions from me is, what do you see as your deliverable to humanity, as well as the MoonDAO community, following your spaceflight?
Well, I'm trying to be open to that, Andy. But to be serious about it, I've thought about this a lot. I'm asking people to put up a lot of money to let me have this experience, and also to let somebody else have the experience, we hope. And it's happening at two levels. One part of the story is, well, here's a person who spent 40 years of their life thinking about something and learning about it and sharing it, and that person's never had the experience themselves. And that's a good story, I think. And I also believe that I think there's a reason People magazine has existed for 50 years or 60 or whatever it is. It's about people. And that's how we learn about more complicated topics, is through the experiences of individuals. So I'm happy to have that be part of the story, and it would be the realization of a lifetime of expectation for me. But the other part of the story is the overview effect. Now, the overview effect appears to be about space, but it's really about Earth in terms of the payoff. Astronauts like you and the NASA astronauts, you've really experienced the truth of our situation. We are in space. We've always been in space. We'll always be in space. When I talked to Kristen Fisher yesterday in the Kristen Fisher launch party, her mom's an astronaut. I said, your mom actually didn't go to space. She left the planet. She left the planet, looked back, and looked at the truth. We're on a spaceship floating through an immense dark universe. We don't act like that. We don't act like the crew of Spaceship Earth. We act like the crew on an ocean liner that's drifting because nobody's in charge. So what I am hoping is that my sharing of the message of the overview effect will be strengthened by my having flown. That's what I really hope. The second thing I'd like to expect, we didn't get into this, Andy, but you took a really methodical approach to generating the income to fly. It's a story of commitment, resilience, persistence. So I hope my story will also inspire others who want to dream big dreams. It may not be to go to space. It may be to become a doctor, to become a lawyer, to become a great writer. I don't know what their dreams are. But if there's any one message I have that maybe will be much stronger if I get to fly is don't give up. Just keep pursuing your dream. And so I do think a lot about making this a valuable experience, not only for me, but for everyone. And I do want to mention in conclusion, my good friend Mary Liz Bender is working on a documentary about this entire experience, which we will share. And that would, we expect, reinforce everything I just said.
I really love that, Frank. You covered a lot of topics there. And I'll say, looking at the Earth from up in space, it's just this giant blue ball floating in this, or I should say traveling at high speeds in this, vast sea of darkness. And we really have so much, to be joyous on this planet with, and getting along is an important thing. One other thing I'll say is that our ambitions and what we learn and how we progress in life is based on stories and information. And having you participate in your own book from your own experience, I think would help a tremendous amount of people, dream bigger, whether it be about going to space or, as you mentioned, doing other ambitious things like being a doctor or, whatever it is that somebody comes up with. We're coming up on time, so I have one last question for you, which is, out of all the astronauts that you've interviewed, is there one interview that really stands out to you of, oh, this was like a really interesting thing I want to share with the viewers today?
Well, your interview is terrific. I want to say that. Yeah, there is an answer that I've given before, Andy, and that's Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell, excuse me, Edgar Mitchell came back. He had the most profound experience that I've heard about, which was he became one with the universe. He left his body. He merged with the entire cosmos. When he came back, he was completely disoriented by what had happened. Now, again, he had been open to it, and he wanted to be open to it. And he asked people, what happened? I don't know what happened to me. And so one of the people he asked gave him an answer of experience of samadhi, which is it's actually a spiritual experience. But it also changed his life. He created IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is a 50-year-old organization that's doing terrific work. And he also attempted to translate what he experienced into a comprehensive philosophical framework. And also, just personally, in my interview with him, which is about a 3-hour or 4-hour interview at his home, he was very, very thoughtful, articulate, and even from that day on, he continued to be a terrific supporter of the work. And so that interview stands out in many, many ways. And I wish he were still around. He would love what's going on right now, and he'd love to see what his organization is doing.
Frank, thank you so much for answering all those questions. And to the viewers, whether it's $10, $100, or $1,000, please contribute to Frank so he can get up there. And special thanks to Ryan and Pablo for hosting us today.
And thanks to you, Andy, for what you're doing. I've always said astronauts, commercial or professional, are the heroes of the story, and always will be. And I do want to also thank Ryan and Pablo, because as I've said before, and I said it last time we met, Ryan and Pablo and MoonDAO are creating a space program. It's more than just flying a few people. It's doing space projects. It's democratizing space. And Ryan and Pablo, you are true innovators, as are all the people, all the citizens of MoonDAO. I think it's time for Ryan and Pablo to come back.
Well, thank you.
That's your cue.
That's our cue. Well, yeah. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Andy. Really awesome conversation. I love the format too. The dual interview format was really cool to see. But yeah, appreciate the kind words. And yeah, Andy's closing remark there about supporting, whether it's $10, $100, $1,000. Really, it all helps. I think we're at 78 contributions right now, and yeah, good to see some activity. I saw some people voting on candidates while we were live during the town hall. So we're up to, I think, 23 people on the list there. But yeah, really, really cool. So
yeah, great conversation. Yeah, that was awesome. I was just looking up Edgar Mitchell as you were talking, Frank, because I was like, oh, this is kind of curious. What an interesting individual. It's like going down a rabbit hole, like as I was as listening to you guys, just reading up about Edgar Mitchell. Wow, interesting guy. Yeah,
and he was the 6th person to walk on the moon.
Wow.
Going back to Apollo days, he that was his only that might have been his only flight. I'm not sure, but he was an Apollo astronaut. And one of the reasons he had the mind-blowing experience was that it happened coming back from the moon when there really wasn't much for him to do. I think he had been a lunar module pilot. So he had done his job and he was coming back, and he had time to, again, integrate. And it was quite a profound moment for him.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and then it seems like that led him to all kinds of interesting exploration afterwards. Yeah, well, I'll have to keep reading about him. But yeah, very cool, and thank you for the kind words, Frank, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you, Andy, for joining the community and jumping up on this town hall and kind of just jumping straight into the deep end and interviewing Frank right on one of our town halls is super interesting. Yeah, and I do want to highlight, Andy, you did mention that SpaceX is hiring, so if anyone in the community is matches the skill sets that you're looking for, Andy, I guess I guess they should reach out to you via the Discord or the platform. But yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I guess on that note, Andy, any way that people could or should connect with you? I don't know if you have a preferred format, or how can they stay in touch?
LinkedIn is the best way. LinkedIn works really well. And for job opportunities, you can go to www.spacex.com/careers and then apply directly there as well.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Frank, so much for the time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Yeah, I believe we have another astronaut interview town hall scheduled, I think, for next week, same time, same place. We're just waiting on some confirmation there before we release the details of who that might be. But as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, we are expecting, or we have the deadline for project submissions for Q2 next week on April 9th. And we are also going to have our final reports from Q1 projects. We should have a few that are wrapping up by then, and we'll be presenting their results and proof of work and what they got done over Q1 to the community for your consideration, your vote, and the retroactive awards that we distribute each quarter. So
yeah,
that will be on the agenda as well for next week.
We'll repeat that one more time. April 9th is the deadline to submit your projects. There's a maximum budget of $4.7 thousand. So if you have a project that you'd want to get funded by the MoonDAO community, anything from research to a community event, or anything that supports the MoonDAO community or a long-term mission of supporting a long-term sustained human presence on the moon, submit a project. So you've got a week to do so, and you go to moondao.com/propose, and then you can input your proposal right there. So give that a look.
Get funded for your projects. I guess, yeah, some Q1 projects, is just to give an idea. We funded over 80 projects over the past couple of years of running these different cycles, but we started this new quarterly governance cycle. But some of the Q1 projects, we have like a lunar development tabletop simulation game that was approved by voters. We had an astronaut event with college track in San Francisco that was approved, an AI chatbot to interact with community members and do some matchmaking. We had a governance design workshop that's happening at Universidad Nur in Bolivia, actually coming up here in a couple weeks. So they'll be doing that while Artemis is in orbit, in space, rather. We had the Maldives space research balloon, so hardware that is going to be happening at the end of the month, I believe. And we had some analog astronaut scholarships to participate in the Habitat Marte habitat in Brazil. So there's just an idea of a few of the projects that were approved last quarter, and yeah, get your creative juices flowing in terms of what voters are into or what they approved last time around.
Yeah, and of course, if you're watching and you'd like to support Frank, you can go to moondao.com/overview, and again, you don't need to know anything about crypto. It really, like, that's not the point of what we're doing at all. The point is just that anyone in the world can contribute and then collaborate on the mission with Frank. It's participatory. You're not just funding Frank's flight, you're also competing potentially for a flight or selecting the person that will fly alongside Frank. So yeah, it's a new way of funding space exploration, where it's not just you fund it and then you forget about it. We want people to really participate in these missions, and so yeah, join us for the ride. It's a movement not just to support Frank, but also to get this idea of the overview effect deeper into the public consciousness as sort of an answer to the why around why we do the things that we do. Why do we explore the cosmos? Why do we go to the moon? Why do we do these things? Because it's evolving humans. It's evolving our awareness of where we are. Yeah, I think that we want this sort of this idea to reach more people. So you're not just supporting Frank, you're supporting this sort of movement and philosophy around the overview effect. So
joining a revolution in how we interact with space. And yeah, just to reiterate what Pablo said, you donate and then, or you contribute, and you can participate immediately afterwards, essentially selecting the candidate pool or voting on a candidate pool. So you get a taste of how this works, which is essentially how MoonDAO has operated this whole time. We use the our governance token called Mooney to approve these project cycles, etc. But this is a brand new mission, and yeah, you can see how it operates immediately after contributing by selecting the candidates. And the idea is to have other governance decisions or forks and questions to the community of backers in the future to help shape the mission and the outcomes of this flight with Frank and the +1, his the person flying alongside him. So yeah, really cool to see the overview effect just kind of permeating the wider mainstream consciousness right now with Artemis. We've got another 9 or 10 days of that being out there. Overview effect and the Earthrise and all this is kind of coming back into the popular conversation. So yeah, I think we're in a really exciting moment for space and for MoonDAO, and working on some important stuff that could help help impact humanity in the short term and long term.
Yeah. You're joining Frank's crew. You're part of the mission if you support Frank. So yeah, jump in there. And it really can just be $1. Like, it really doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be a penny even. But
we've had some of those contributions. Yeah, absolutely.
Join in, be part of the crew, join the movement. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If you have any questions about it, reach out to Pablo or myself or Frank directly, and we'll help you out. But yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. We got translunar injection potentially here later today. I don't know, in a couple hours, I think they should give the go, no go for translunar injection on Artemis II, and then they will really, really be on the way to the moon. So lots of developments that we're expecting over the course of, important mission update or important mission milestones here in the next couple days, of course.
Right. And hopefully the toilets keep functioning.
Very important. 10 days.
Just keep monitoring all those prediction markets, guys.
Right.
But yeah, exciting stuff. Yeah.
Andrew in chat says it's at 7:30 Eastern time. They'll have the translunar injection notice. So a couple hours, essentially 24 hours after they launch. So
awesome.
Cool.
All right,
everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. See you same time, same place next week.
Bye, everyone.
Welcome to MoonDAO, a revolutionary governance model and mission-oriented community that's reshaping collaboration in the space industry. Our mission is to create a self-sustaining, self-governing settlement on the moon to act as a launch point into the cosmos. MoonDAO is governed like a nation, with its own economy, constitution, voting system, treasury, elections, and senate, but internet native, and so without the limitations of geography. In 2022, we sent our first member to space, showcasing our model's capacity for real-world impact. Now, we're implementing key solutions for global collaboration in the space industry. We offer a borderless, permissionless platform that enables everyday people to participate in the future of space development and exploration. Be part of our lunar legacy and join the MoonDAO movement today.